네, 인공지능 기술이 산업과 일상생활의 전반을 바꾸는 AX 시대에 돌입하면서 인문학의 중요성이 더욱더 커지고 있습니다. 인공지능과 로봇 등 첨단 기술이 인본주의적 가치를 바탕으로 운영이 돼야 보다 풍요로운 미래로 나아갈 수 있다고 기대하기 때문인데요. 이번 특별대담에서는 AX 시대 인재를 위한 인문학을 주제로 AX 시대에 필요한 인문학적 소양에 대해 함께 논의해보는 뜻깊은 시간 갖도록 하겠습니다. 그럼 이번 대담을 이끌어주실 염재호 태재대학교 총장님과 후한 엔리케스 미국 엑셀벤처 매니지먼트 인사님을 큰 박수와 함께 환영하도록 하겠습니다. 힘찬 박수 부탁드립니다. 자, 그럼 총장님 진행 부탁드리도록 하겠습니다.
Okay, thank you everybody, and I'm very honored, and it is my pleasure to be here, and especially Mr. Juan Enriquez. He's very important. He's just doing the startup, especially biosynthesis. So it is very impressive, especially special in the AI era. And first of all, I will present some speech that I prepared, and then Mr. Enriquez will present his presentation. And basically, it is related to what is the humanities in the era of AI in the 21st century. And then we will have the 50 minutes discussion related to what is the human beings and how it will be changed in the 21st century and that kind of things. So if you have any questions, please feel free to just send us a question, and we will just discuss that issue as well. Out of the 50 minutes, 35 and 40 minutes we will discuss together, and then we will receive your questions and answer those questions. Okay, first of all, I will just present my paper. Okay, thank you. Okay, I just make my presentation, Returning the Humanities in the Age of AI. Because the time is limited, I'm just quickly move on my presentation. As you know, around the 1 century, there occurred the new technology. 18th century, there's the Industrial Revolution, and then mechanical invention has been changed our muscle power. And then in the 20th century, you know that the emergence of the mass production system, that is thanks to the theory of the scientific management, we just divided up every process of the production very nicely, and then put them together. We just make a mass production. It also occurred the problem because in the late 20th century and 21st century, we have the problems of the waste issues and the pollution issues and a lot of things because we consumed too much thanks to the mass production. But in the 21st century, from around the 1970s, there occurred the computer systems, and just the human society has been changed into digital society, just a 0 and 1. And the computer has been changed. When I was in Japan for doing my research in just high-tech industries in Japan, and at that time there occurred CNC, the concept of CNC, that is that jargon coined by the Fujitsu chairman Kondo. Mr. Kondo just coined that concept. At that time, it is a nonsense because computer can be combined with communication. It means that the telephone. How come computer can be combined with the telephone? It is nonsense. But now we can understand that the CNC is just most common thing in the today's civilization, just like a smartphone. In the 21st century, everything has been changed because of the digital transformation, and it just developed up to the AI era. So this is symbolic thing, and artificial intelligence, big data, robotics, and more to come in the 21st century. Everything has been changed. For example, the understanding, as I just mentioned to my partner, Enriquez, it's just like this kind of stroller. We used to have the stroller for babies, but last year, stroller for dog has surpassed the sales of the stroller for babies in Korea in the online market. So, and also, we just admit cat and dog is our family members, not just like a pet. So everything is changing very rapidly. And 150 years ago or 200 years ago, our life and work is together combined. But in this kind of mass production system, everything has been changed, and then our work is separated from our life. And then we simply receive the money from our work just places, and then just use that money for our family members or for our life. 1900, New York City, it is a very famous picture, and Fifth Avenue, there's a Easter parade is all equipped by the horse riding, cart. But within 13 years later, our parade is equipped with the 4T automobile cars. And then at that time, they're just worrying about some kind of horse riding, just the people. How come they just lost their job? But in the 1913 or later, you see that in the United States, 1920, only the 1 million cars existed, but 1929, within 9 years, 29 million cars. So the car driver's job has been multiplied by 100 times or 1,000 times more. So everything is changing, but don't worry too much about the previous job is lost and displaced by the new job. You know that just the blue line is the cost of the computer chips, and then red line is the job destruction, and also the purple line is the inequality increased. But we just need to adapt to this kind of system. Change of job in the era software, mathematics, and legal accounting, we will just, that kind of job will be abolished. And in the Davos Forum, they just mentioned that 85% of the job in the 2030 didn't exist in the 20th century. So new jobs are just coming up over and over again. Yoshimi Sunya just wrote a book, What is University? There are in human history, two major challenges and inventions in the human civilization. The one is printing. Printing changed the whole world. And the second stage now is the digital transformation and then AI. For example, sociologists said that there are two institutions that cannot be extincted, disappear. That is, one is a cathedral or church, the other one is university. But in these days, if you just visit United Kingdom, England, most of the churches are transformed into the bar and restaurant or something like that. And also, if you visit Milan Cathedral, it is not for the worship, but for the tourist spot. Printing industry has changed the world. Before the printing industry, Gutenberg invented printing 1455. Almost 1,000 years that is dominated by the God-driven society. Pope and Catholics dominate the society, and then only just depicted just the paintings for the God, not the human bodies. But before that, only the 2 or 3 books, Bibles, are just inscripted by this kind of inscriptor. But Gutenberg invented printing, metal printing. Then it has been spread out more than 1,000 books per year. For example, Martin Luther, he just the leader of the Reformation, and then he translated Latin Bible to German languages, and then everybody can understand what's going on in the Bible. Before that, you can see that in the cathedral there are a lot of pictures and paintings or just like that kind of images. That is the reason why the people couldn't understand what's inside of the Bible. But after reading the Bible, just the people understand that human beings are more important than anything else. So they just recover the meaning of human beings, and that is the Renaissance. In the early days of the Roman and the Greek era, they can just draw paintings and pictures of the human bodies, but 1,000 years of the Dark Ages, they didn't do that. Now, just the Renaissance is rediscovery of human, and then it also speed up the progress of the scientific revolution. 2005, Ray Kurzweil mentioned that around the 2045 year 2045, the machine intelligence will surpass the human intelligence. Human intelligence has been progressed just like a green line, but because of the computer invention, suddenly around the 2045, just the mechanic intelligence will surpass the human intelligence. And Yuval Harari also mentioned that around 2050, human beings, thanks to the infusion of this kind of mechanical support, AI or that kind of things, we will be the God. That is the Homo Deus main ideas. But this year, 2024, because of the very rapid progress of the AI, Ray Kurzweil published a new book last June, and he just mentioned that singularity is nearer. It comes much faster. When? 2029. Only 5 years later, mechanic and AI intelligence will surpass human intelligence. And then we have lived around two cycles of 30 years. 30 years is the one generation. Only 2 generations we human beings lived. But 2015 Times magazine's just a article, it says that this baby could live to be 142 years. 5 different generation cycles we could live in the 21st century. And then what we should do? So the education should be changed, just like simply lecturing is not enough. We have to think about it and discuss, and problem solving is more important than simply lecturing, because explicit knowledge, we can just get it in various other places, just like Coursera and Udemy, and the good things are, and in Korea next year we will have the digital textbook. AI can teach the explicit knowledge. Then teachers and professors, what they can do, they are just changing into the role of the teacher, but role of the coach or facilitator, and then their main focus is just like social activities and just like moral issues and some kind of ethical issues, and all that kind of things are the new role of the teachers. Everywhere. For example, Coursera last year, they just gained 5 million subscribers last year. So it is a very, very booming. AI era, what we can do? Albert Einstein, he didn't say he is a scientist. He says that I'm enough of the artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. In the 21st century, in the AI era, human high-tech and high-touch, human and machine interface, we have to utilize AI technology in various ways. As a vice chairman of the National AI Committee, I emphasize that we don't build the expressway, highway, because American big, just like IT group, they just already put a number of computer, just like a center and all that kind of things. So, but we have to utilize it. But there's a lot of concern and worries from human beings. For example, especially generative AI, they can develop by themselves in many ways, and then they can just conquer, take over the human intelligence, and they can conquer the human beings, and it is a serious concern at the moment. But if you think that there just a automobile car invented at the outset, there's a lot of worries because it is a kind of very, very dangerous just a machine that can hit just human beings, and it is a serious problem. But as you know that now we can utilize automobiles and cars very easily, and not only the development of the engine and accelerator, but also human beings develop the brake system. You can just make cars slow down and also stop. So the AI cases, we have to develop this kind of brake system for our safety and some kind of for the human just a well-being. So we don't need to just compete with cars for running, and we utilize just like automobiles, and just the same in the same sense, AI can be utilized by ourselves in various fields. For example, education and the legal systems and the banking systems, and also the medical and everywhere. So until now, human beings, our life, most of our time, just is used for some kind of working in order to survive. But in the 21st century, it will be changed. I guess that within 10 years, we will work only 4 days a week. And around the 1940s in the United States, they worked 70 hours per week. But now, the European countries only 30 hours. So it is changing very rapidly. From the Homo faber, and we are just moving to the Homo ludens. We are enjoying and playing, and then we can just can live with a certain amount of support. Now, in the discussion, we will discuss more. What is the human beings, and how can just co-evolve between AI and the technology and the human beings. And the interesting book is the Co-Intelligence. That is a recent book. Human beings and AI can just interact together. Then we will, our intelligence, human beings' intelligence will surpass very, very rapid speed, 21st century. So someone, even Ray Kurzweil mentioned that in this way. Around 70,000 years ago, Neanderthal, just the persons extinct. Then the difference between today's human beings and Neanderthal, and the difference, if we compare the difference between now human beings and just like, what is it? The 2029, he mentioned that the singularity year human beings, the difference is much greater. So if we observe 50% or more machine intelligence together, as you know that Neuralink, just Elon Musk mentioned that, and everything just put inside of our bodies, and then everything will be changed very rapidly. Then Yuval Harari mentioned that what is the future of humanity? Then what is human beings? Human beings is quite different. And then what is our value system and ethics and our life and our job? Everything will be changed within at least a decade or 2 decades later, then what we have to think about it. And you know that just like Apple, Steve Jobs utilized humanities into his smartphone in various ways, but not using the humanities into just a commercial products. But we have to just think about what is humanity, our philosophy, ethic, value system. Now, this kind of rapidly changing AI era, we have to think about it. What is human? New philosophy. What is the social system? You know that, for example, presidential system has been invented 250 years ago in the United States. Before that, only the king controlled the nation. But since then, everything has been changed. Just like that, social system, political system, and every system can be changed thanks to the AI technology. So we have to think about it. And many people in the newspaper article, they just mentioned the unemployment rate after the college graduate. But it's a nonsense. Do you know that how many years we human beings are employed by the company? In the whole human history, around 10,000 human history, only the 200 years or 150 years, we are employed. And then we make our living. From now on, in the AI era, everyone can be the self-employer, self-employment. You can connect, as Fiorina mentioned, connect. And if you have better ideas and creative ideas, we can do a lot of things utilizing AI techniques that can be your employee AI system. So this kind of small office, home office will be prosper in the 21st century. Okay, let me just go back. Okay, that's my presentation, and then let's listen to Annike's presentation, and then we will discuss what is the human beings, how the human beings are changing, how we educate good qualified talents in the 21st century in the AI era. Thank you very much. So this kind of new technology emerged in the 21st century. Thanks to the support of the AI technology, it will be just moving so fast. Just like Hasabi's Nobel chemistry, just the Nobel Prize winner, he just make it AlphaFold, and then up until now, we just designed just a protein, just a structure around 200,000, the human beings, and then he just designed more than 200 million, something like that. So, because of the AI technology. So, unsolved a lot of technological problems can be solved thanks to this kind of AI technology. And then human beings, what is the human beings, and how come our human beings can contribute to the society, or a lot of things it is a very fuzzy situation at the moment. So let me start. First of all, what is humanities? What is the humanity? Because we are human beings, even though AI technology and the machine support and a lot of things will happen in the coming years, then still we are human beings. And what is human being? What is the humanities? What do you think?
So I think we have to be very careful with the notion that we are special and we are different from all other animals. The fossil record shows you that there have been at least 30 different species of humans, and all of them have gone extinct, except us. Now think about how weird that is. Think about if you went outside and saw a bird, and then you saw the same bird in Japan, and you saw the same bird in Vietnam, and you saw the same bird in Brazil, and you only saw that bird. That would be very strange. Now, that didn't used to be the way that humans lived. We lived side by side with at least 5 or 6 other species of humans, and we interbred with those species. So a lot of us have Neanderthal inside us. And what's the consequence of that? When we think about humanity and we think about humans, we came within 12,000 specimens of going extinct. So all of us, whether you are Korean, Chinese, Japanese, Brazilian, Mexican, we all descend from 12,000 people. We were this close to going extinct. And we should not assume that the things we are doing will not have major consequences and that we don't have to defend the humanities. Because if we don't defend the humanities and we keep pushing science without humanities, we're going to make some really serious mistakes. And those are serious mistakes. And the stuff we've been talking about with nuclear weapons, the stuff we've been talking about with AI, the stuff we've been talking about with biological possibilities. You need the humanities to guide these technologies. And we cannot assume that we can have science without humanity. Bad idea. That's why I'm so excited about what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, it is a very good analogy. After the printing, before that, only the God is only the superpower, and human beings are object of the God's ruling society. But after the printing, we understand that human beings are important. So the Renaissance, as I mentioned, or something like that. But in these days, another neo-Renaissance appears. For example, human beings is not, as you mentioned, the only creature by the God, and that there are so many other creatures. So up until now, our family consists of our blood ties, but now the cat and dogs can be the part of our family. And also we understand even plant and animals and all that kind of things can be our just the coexistence, just creatures. So the understanding of human beings may be changing very rapidly. For example, I'm very sensitive in the word, and up until very recently, human beings are the only subject, and all the other things are object. So we can just control and conquer our object. But in these days, Korean language is changing, and object can use the active verb rather than the passive verb. Up until now, for example, inflation will be spread out, will be continued or something like that. That is our expression. But in these days, in the news anchor, they just said inflation will spread by itself or something like that. So object can play the role as an active creature rather than the passive creature. So in the 21st century, a lot of things will be changing. So as you mentioned that, especially biosynthesis, it is very, very serious issue for human beings, how we define what is human.
I completely agree with you. And I think what we're doing with technology pushes it even further. So let me address a topic that some of you may occasionally think about, which is sex. I don't think people understand how extreme our engineering of sex has become. Because when you talk about humanity, you're not just talking about how humanity was, you're talking about how humanity is. And let me just put this in terms that will become somewhat understandable. Let's imagine you had a time machine, and you bring your grandparents back, and you bring them back and they're 25 years old, and you have your 4 grandparents, and you're going to talk about sex. First, it would be a very uncomfortable conversation. But do you understand how difficult it would be for your grandparents to have this conversation? Because here's what you're going to tell them. The first thing you're going to tell them is, you know what, we can have all the sex we want and never have a child. To your grandparents, who did not have birth control that worked, that would be like, what? The second thing you tell your grandparents is, because I'm going to take a course at Stanford, we're going to have a child, but we're going to do it using in vitro fertilization. And your grandparents are going to say, what's that? Well, basically it means that 2 bodies don't have to be in the same room together to have a child. They don't have to be in the same city. They don't have to be in the same country. And your grandparents would look at you and they'd say, you know what, we used to call that the Immaculate Conception. And it was a miracle, and you're telling me that you are now performing miracles. And then the third thing you tell your grandparents is, because I'm going through cancer treatments, I'm going to freeze my eggs, I'm going to freeze my embryos, and I'm going to have a surrogate mother. And because I've got twins, I can have twins that are born 30 years apart. So what you're telling your grandparents is that you can have the act without consequence, you can have conception without physical contact, and you can have children, identical twins, born 30 years apart. So you've separated it from time. Okay, so we have engineered humanity in an extreme way in a very short period of time. Now push that conversation forward. The technologies that are coming online mean that by the time your children tell you what they are doing, you are going to say, that's impossible, that's wrong, that's unethical, and they're going to consider it normal and natural. Right? And so when we talk about ethics, when we talk about right and wrong, we have to think very carefully how our notions of right and wrong are changed by technology across time. Because what technology does is it takes something that you say, this is wrong, and it flips 180 degrees. And one example that's coming very quickly is most of us in this room probably would not want to engineer babies unless if they had a deadly disease. But very soon, your children or grandchildren are going to come to you and say, you were so primitive, you were so backward, you were so silly that you didn't take out the P53 gene, you didn't take out the BRCA gene, you didn't take out the K1, and therefore I now have cancer because you were a silly, superstitious person and didn't want to engineer me, right? And for us, that'd be very weird. For them, it's going to be the exact opposite. So technology really displaces humanity. It displaces what we can do with our bodies. It displaces what we think is right and wrong. And it's really important, again, to bring the humanities into this. To think about not being certain all the time that we are right and those people are just wrong. And listen to one another.
Yeah, that's true. It's just when I first went to United States as a graduate student at Stanford, 1981, at that time there's a very serious problems of the gay and lesbian at that time. And they are despised by the ordinary people or something like that. But in these days, in the United States, you are not talking about the biological sex, male or female, but gender, social gender is more important. So you identify yourself 12 different social gender. So yeah, just like 30 years ago and 40 years ago, if we just say, okay, social gender is more important than biological sex, then we'll be criticized by the ordinary people or our parents or something like that. But it is changing. Yeah, that's true. So now, if human beings and the humanities are changing, the more important thing is that diversity, and we understand the different person, different society, different creature, and just like empathy is more important. For example, a number of books published, just like Jeremy Rifkin, also the era of empathy or something like that. Empathy is more important. We have to understand different creatures and different beings and objects and whatever. And then we just feel as an empathy, and we understand and feel just like different creatures. So from now on, up until now, 20th century, as I said before, because of the division of labor and specified just the skills that are important, so we are going to the colleges and universities, and we take the majors and specialize certain areas. But in the 21st century, that kind of explicit knowledge can be supported by the AI and just like a technology. Then, what human beings will be educated?
So I think you've got a very difficult job.
As a college professor.
Being a university president is not something that I would like to do these days. And partly it's the politics, but the fundamental question you're asking, which is what does a university teach? What should I study? What should my kids study? Mm-hmm. Is an absolutely essential question, because when you and I was in college in '81, a lot of times you studied this, and that's what you did, and you went to work for a company, and maybe you didn't spend your whole life at the company, but you spent a long time at that company. And part of what I think universities are going to have to do is the time period for upheaval of companies, mm-hmm. for the upheaval of technologies, mm-hmm. for the when you looked at the slides this morning of which jobs are likeliest to be changed by AI, it's some of the most successful jobs today. So when you look at who's earning the most money on average today, it's the people who study computer science. And when you look at that slide of what is going to be like really displaced by AI, mm-hmm. it was things like computer science, information technology. So your most smartest, most successful graduates in many universities may be wiped out very quickly by a technology that they invented. And there's an irony to that, mm-hmm. right? And so at that point, what do we do? And at that point, I think universities have to come back and say, we trained you, we know you're really smart, we know you're really good, we know you're a really hard worker, and we know you also invented something that just put you out of business. So here's 3 or 4 other places where you can do really interesting stuff. And what's fascinating in this, and that's where I started, you have the ability as individuals, as entrepreneurs, to generate the economies of a country. Right? If you are smart, you can build a country with not many people. And I actually mean that literally. There were about 54 people who worked at WhatsApp.
Wow.
And they generated an economy the size of Uruguay. Right? And this is getting faster and faster. So your ability to take control over your future as you get fields that are completely new, as you get genomics, as you get metagenomics, as you get robotics, as you get the next programming of AI, as you get the next programming, it's not that this job's going to go away and there's nothing you can do. It's that you have to be in an alliance with the universities the rest of your life, mm-hmm. real or virtual, to retrain into things, and there's going to be more and more opportunities for you to do it and to generate enormous things if you are able to retrain. But if you think, I've already learned this, I don't need to learn anymore, I'm not going to retrain, you're going to be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, from now on, we have to just think about it, and the university may develop, do research on human beings and the new philosophy and the new ethic and the new, on top of the technology, and in the 20th century and the mass production period, it is very, very important to just make living. But in the 21st century, probably more art and just like, as I said before, just homo ludens. And what is the benefit of the human happiness and the living? And we just think about new philosophy of why we exist and survive, and how come we just think about other creatures, or all that kind of things are popping up in the 21st century, new philosophy, or just like a trend that will be emerging. Another question is that, not the general people, but the elite and leaders, and Fiorina also mentioned that the leader's role is very important. If we educate, especially in the university, the leaders, the good talent person and qualified people who leads the world, what we should teach, and what is the major focus to teach and educate the elite and leaders?
So I consider myself a bad-humored optimist. So in the short term, I'm in a bad mood about a lot of the stuff happening in the world. In the long term, I'm an optimist. And I'm an optimist because I think things do get better. And I want you to think about, again, a time machine. Imagine that this is a time machine, and you have the option to walk out that door and walk into Korea 1950. You can walk out that door and walk out into Korea 1900. You can walk out that door and walk out into Korea 1800. As somebody who wasn't very smart, as somebody who was a woman, as somebody who was a minority, as somebody who didn't have an elite education or an elite parent. Would you prefer to walk out those doors, or would you rather walk out the doors today? And on average, I think all of us, almost all of us, would choose to walk out into the present and not into the past. So there's a lot of things wrong with the present. There's a lot of things to be upset about. The consequence of that is, would you rather walk out that door 50 years from now? And my answer is yes. I would love to walk out that door and see Korea in 50 years. I would love to walk out that door and see the world in 50 years. I think we're going to survive. I think people are going to be far better off. I think we're going to be more gentle with each other, because we're going to have the means and the wealth to do it. The rules of economics used to be the rules of scarcity. There is not enough food for everybody. There is not enough medicine for everybody. The digital era has made it so that there's enough. And then the ethics of that is, if there was enough, why did you allow people to go hungry? Why did you allow people to go without medicine? And people are going to look at us in retrospect and say, what were you thinking? Because we used to be able to say we didn't have enough. Now we can't say that. We have enough. Are we treating each other right? In 50 years, we better have done that, because if we don't do that with Africa, and we don't do that with the poorer parts of Asia, and we don't do that with Latin America, we're going to have a lot more people running around who are angry and very powerful in terms of destructive power.
Yeah, that's true. Especially Korean society has been developed at very, very rapid speed. For example, last 6 decades, 60 years, world economy has grown 6 times, but Korean economy has grown 400 times. I don't want to go back to 50 years because at the time we are very poor situation. Only the per capita income is only $100, 60 years or 70 years ago. So we are very prosperous. But the only problem, nowadays, the Korean people feel that they are not happy at all. So it is a kind of conception and image or something like that. For example, even in the United States, in the American people, Ray Kurzweil's new book describes in this way. For example, in the United States, serious crime rate has been decreased very rapidly, but people's understanding of the crime rate is going up. It is a perception, not a reality. Thanks to the SNS or the news media, and they just covered a lot of crime, just the scenes, so they feel that, oh, there are so many crimes. But in reality, crime rate has been decreased very rapidly. So yeah, I agree with you, just an optimistic future in many ways, and also human intelligence can just solve these problems, just like atomic bomb. And yeah, we experienced the atomic bomb in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and then we couldn't use it at all. And it totally destroyed our whole human beings, but still we don't use it. Just like AI, we have a lot of worries and concerns, but human intelligence can just solve these issues. Yeah, that's my optimistic, just a projection.
You know, I think happiness is something that is important for a society. And I think if a society has the margin economically to survive, to protect itself, then it begins to go up Maslow's pyramid and moves into things that not only allow you to survive, but things that allow you to be happier. And I think that transition is very difficult to see. I was last in Korea 12 years ago, and it was a very different place. The Korea that I've been walking around for the last 2 days, unbelievable. The amount of energy, the amount of art, the amount of music, the amount of food, the amount of cosmopolitanism here. I mean, all of a sudden, Korean tacos, right, are everywhere in the world. Music, soap operas. And in economic terms, I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's crazy how many automobiles you'd have to make and sell to generate the same margin as a movie or music hit. You look at how much money was made off of X movie or off of X music group, and then you calculate that in margin of profit per automobile, completely different orders of magnitude. And what that tells you is, in the measure that Korea becomes a cultural soft power, as it's becoming, not only does it have a huge influence on the world, alongside its electronics, alongside its cars, alongside its chips, alongside its computers, but developing that whole sector of society out of universities that respect and support the humanities gives you an economic margin where you're not giving up all of what you built over here through a lot of hard work. In fact, you can do well, do better, go global, and have a higher margin off this stuff. It doesn't mean give up on tech, give up on manufacturing, but it does mean it's incredible what all of you have built in a relatively short period of time and how that has just gone global. And you should be very proud of that. And you should be very proud of how this society has learned and adapted and exported something you were not very good at 15 years ago.
Okay, yeah. Quite interesting. I agree with you, just Abraham Maslow's motivation hierarchy, and the top is the self-actualization. And then, thanks to the support of the AI and technology, and they can just produce much efficiently and we don't need to work too much in the 21st century, then we have to focus on this kind of cultural things and self-actualization, and then we just make a profit from that as well. So Homo faber to Homo ludens, and so it is a new word, yeah, in the 21st century. Let me just check the, what is it?
기술이 아무리 발달하더라도 변치 않는 인간의 가치나 그런 게 있을 것 같은데, 예를 들어 아무리 뭐 약이 발전을 하고 비만을 예방하는 지금 싹센다나 여러 가지 약이 나오고 있고 언젠가는 정말 100년, 200년 살 수 있는 약이 나오더라도 그 사람이 겪는 우울, 불안, 그리고 뭐 그러한 여러 가지 감정들조차도 기술이 해결할 수 있을지, 그리고 일부러 마라톤을 하는 사람이 있잖아요. 마라톤을 하면 얼마나 고통을 받고 힘든지 알면서도 그러한 어려움이라든지 힘든 그런 도전을 하는 사람이 있는데, 좀 상식적으로 생각하면 왜 저렇게 어려운 일을 하지? 굳이 안 해도 되는데, 뭐 머스크 같은 경우는 화성에 굳이 인류가 갈 필요가 있나 하지만 그런 비전을 또 실천을 하고 있잖아요. 그러면 기술이 이렇게 해결하지 못하는 인간의 그러한 점에서는 어떤 게 있는지 좀 궁금합니다.
Okay, please. Yeah, from me. 한국말로 하겠습니다. 한국말로 질문했으니까, yeah, you just take the receiver. 영원히 변치 않는 거 분명히 있을 겁니다. 그래서 제가 여기도 발표할 때에 그 표현을 이제 그렇게 썼는데요. 사람에 대한 재발견, 그러니까 네오르네상스라는 표현도 썼는데, 하나님이 1000년 동안 인간은 부속품으로 생각하고 종교가 모든 것을 지배했던 시대에서 인쇄술이 나오면서 깨우치게 됐고, 신부님의 말만 듣던 것이 아니라 성경을 직접 읽으면서도 온 천하를 주고도 네 목숨이 잃으면 무엇이 소중하냐라고 하는 성경의 이야기를 갖고 인간의 중요성을 생각해서 시민혁명도 일어나고 왕에 대한 도전도 일어나고 그 다음에 종교개혁도 일어나고 모든 것이 다 바뀌게 된 것처럼, 이제 21세기에 AI가 엄청나게 많은 우리 인간이 힘들게 노력했던 일들 같은 것을 가져갈 텐데, 그럼에도 불구하고 우리가 지금부터 제가 조금 아까도 얘기했던 것처럼 새로운 철학을 고민할 때가 됐다라고 하는 것은, 인간이 과연 뭔가, 인간의 존재의 의미는 뭔가, 인간은 무엇으로 행복해져. 여태까지는 먹고 사는 것 때문에 먹고 사는 것을 얻고 더 많은 것을 얻는 것이 행복이라고 생각했는데, 아까 에이브람 매슬로우가 얘기한 것처럼 self-actualize, 자기 실현을 하는 욕구가 가장 중요한 인간의 욕구인데, 그것을 하기 위해서 많은 일들은 AI한테 일을 시키고 자기는 무슨 일을 할까 하는 것에 대한 새로운 시대가 오는 것이 아닌가. 그래서 제가 다시 귀환, 인간성에 대한 귀환에 대한 얘기를 하고 있는데, 그걸 우리가 한번 생각을 해봐야 될 것 같습니다. 지금 말씀하신 것처럼 감정이라든가 또는 뭐 사랑이라든가 뭐 이런 인간의 가장 근본적인 그 속성은 변하지 않는 것이 분명히 있을 거다. 그럼 그것을 가지고서 20세기까지 우리가 지금 뭐 수능 시험처럼 경쟁하고 그 다음에 올라가기 위해서 하고 더 많은 것을 벌기 위해서 하고 이렇게 살아왔던 삶에 대한 것도 많이 달라지지 않을까, 뭐 그런 생각도 들어서 우리가 같이 한번 고민해야 될 것들이 아닌가 이렇게 생각을 합니다. 네, 고맙습니다. 또 네, 여기 옆에 질문. 네. 우리 마이크 좀 갖다 주시면 좋을 것 같아요. 가져가셨나요? 이게 아마 안 돼, 이 등록이 안 돼서 이제 마이크를 갖고 직접 아마 플로어에서 질문할 때 마이크 좀 전달해 주세요.
Thank you both for your speech, and as you mentioned, there are some big companies and a few individuals that create the whole new country, more than a country. But I wonder how those people find their future in their lives. Do they like to see their future in technology? So this is the question one I want to ask.
Yeah, please.
So I think these two questions are very similar, which is, what does it all mean? Once you build these companies, so what? And I think that's a really important question. There's two levels to it. One is, I think we're going to be able to rebuild most of our organs, but we're not going to be able to rebuild our brains. Because the connections are so difficult that even if you could rebuild your brain, the connections in that brain are not going to be there. So that taste of grandmother's sweets, that smell of your mom's clothing, that doesn't get recreated if you remake your brain. And so mental diseases are a huge issue. And in the field that I'm in life sciences, about 94-95% of the medicines created for depression fail because we don't understand the brain well enough yet. And what that means in terms of longevity is we are very unlikely to live past 120, 130 because we have not found a way of making our brains healthy yet or of regrowing our brains. So all these people who are telling you you're going to live to 140, 150, no, you're not. Until we solve the brain issue. We can solve the kidney issue, we can solve the eye issue, etc., but not the brain issue. And that means you've got one life, and it's not going to be a forever life. And we do have to address brain diseases because you are seeing an epidemic of people being overwhelmed by this world, by information, by a lack of meaning, by is this all there is? And again, it turns back to the humanities. Because the search for meaning through religion, through myths, through stories, through history is one of the great things that human beings have done. And we ignore that at our peril. And we ignore the lessons of what happens when we forget each other's humanity, when we forget love, when we forget family, because we're so determined to do X, Y, or Z, or we're so focused on doing X, Y, or Z, that we forget what matters. And what matters is you've got one life, and to summarize it, Nike and Nissan. Just do it and enjoy the ride.
Okay. Do you have any other question? 야, 또 질문 없으세요? 네. 저 뒤에 한 분만 마지막으로 질문 받고 저희가 랩업 하겠습니다. 네. 그 마이크로폰 좀 갖다 주시겠어요? 질문. 저 뒤에서 한 분이 질문을 하신다고 하는데 질문 없이 클로즈 하라고 그러는데 나중에 개인적으로 질문하시고요. 왜냐하면은 저기 진행해서 이제 더 이상 질문 받지 말고 클로즈를 하라고 얘기하는 것 같은데 어떻게 질문 더 안 받고 합니까? 아니면 받지 말고요? 알았습니다. 죄송합니다. 나중에 이제 요 세션 끝나고 나서 혹시 개인적으로 질문 있으면 받도록 하겠습니다. Okay, thank you. And we just wrap up this session. And it is very important discussion session because from now on we are just landing in the new continent of the AI embedded society. Just like Columbus discovered the new land and where to go. What's going to happen somewhere else? We don't know. But still, we have to think about a lot of things, and just like conventional job and works can be done by the robots or the AI and all that kind of things. And we have more and more free time, and then human beings need to be focused on what is human beings. And as I said before, the Abraham Maslow's, just like self-actualization as a human being. And then another major issue is that in the 21st century, our understanding of the human beings may be changed. For example, we have to think about diversity, diverse of the universe, the creatures and the animals and plants, how to treat them. We are not alone, and we have to just live together in the universe. So I think that unlike the traditional philosophy, new philosophy will come up. And then in the university, we will discuss these kind of things. And what is human being, and what is the good for human society in the 21st century. And all that kind of issues are in front of our future. Thank you very much for your very interesting and impressive comments and discussions and presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
네, 감사합니다. 네, 두 분께서 말씀 주셨던 것처럼 끊임없이 기술이 고도화되고 있는 이 시점에 하나 고민해야 될 것이 바로 변하지 않는 인간의 근본적인 것이 무엇인가에 대해 생각해 보게끔 또 깊은 성찰을 나눠주셨는데요. 다시 한번 대담에 참여해 주신 염재호 총장님과 후한 엔리케스 이사님께 감사 인사 드리겠습니다.